Hello travelers and welcome to my 1 to 75 leveling guide for the Sentinel 2 Void Knight. In this guide I'm going to take a brand new character in the solo mode so that we can help out new players as well as returning players in getting a character leveled up all the way to 75 in the Void Knight Mastery as quickly and efficiently as possible. In this guide we will go over all of the skill points that I put into skills, which order that I spec them. We will stop every few levels so that I can explain to you why I'm making the choices that I am and where I'm putting them first. We will also go over passives and the order that I put those in, and lastly we'll go over the gear, and if I gamble I'll show you when I gamble, if I'm crafting I'll show you the crafting, and we'll go over what affixes I'm looking for and why. Alright, let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, we're just a few minutes into the game, and now I am level 6. Now the reason that I went with level 6 and not level 4 is because I was waiting to spec into Rive. So I'm going to go ahead and spec into Rive, and the reason that I'm specking into Rive is it has the highest DPS that you're going to get in the game. So I'm going to go ahead and put 1 point into Outburst, and then we're going to eventually put points into Brutality and work our way towards Coup de Grace for that 15% kill threshold, which really speeds up the early bosses. Then afterwards we'll go to the left side and we'll open up Trampling Ahutsul, Insidious, and then work towards Gaze into the Abyss so that we can get double the void damage. For passives, I got 4 points in Juggernaut. That's for the fire resist and void resistance, so that's where I'll put my first 5 points, but we have 4 right now. And then we'll work into getting the armor and damage reduction, and then we'll swing back to get the melee physical damage added. And then for items, we've already had a couple of really good drops. So we got the refugee gloves that came with melee attack speed, health regen, and armor. And then for the amulet, I picked up a jade amulet that has melee attack speed, and it also came with physical damage. So a nice thing to keep an eye out for is the jade amulet. That melee attack speed early game really makes a difference, especially if you decide to wield, like we are here, a two-hander. That's going to give you a big boost of damage early on and let you one-hit to two-hit a lot of mobs. Alright, let's get back into it. Alright, we've gone a bit further and we are now a level 9 Sentinel, and that opened up our second skill slot. And with our second skill slot, we're going to go ahead and spec into Lunge. Now, Shield Bash is another good option, but I want Lunge because I want Lunge to give us, a bunch of damage boost, and it's also going to give us additional armor for damage reduction boost, and we'll be invincible while lunging after we spec into it. So our first point is going to go into Tactician. This will allow you to lunge more often as it will have a shorter cooldown. And as we spec into it, we're going to head into the initiative where we get more crit chance and we get more damage from it. And then that increase will then go into Avenger's Charge for another 5 points. And altogether we'll end up getting a 240% increased chance to crit, which takes us from our 5% base that we have right now and will put you up towards like the 17-18% chance to crit, which is a huge bonus for only having to put in a total of 8 points. So we're going to try and do that before we even get to the end of time. And then for Rive, we have 2 more points. We're going to go ahead and spec 1 into Brutality so that the third strike will hit a bit harder, and 1 point in Coup de Grace so that we have that kill threshold. And now we'll begin working our way to the left One thing that we will pick up, we're going to get that 100% more void damage, and then right after that we're going to want to spec into Overwhelm for 50% more hit damage on that third strike. You can see how the third strike is going to hit really hard when you have more damage here, you have more damage here, you have added damage, you have 100% more damage, you have 20% more hit damage, you have a kill threshold. You can just see how the third strike is lining up to be really potent, and it's going to finish off bosses incredibly quickly for you. And then for passives, we picked up another 4 points. We put 1 into Juggernaut, and then we're going to throw 3 into Armor Clad. That's going to give us some more armor. It's going to make us take less damage from mobs that are right next to us. If you're not having any problems with survivability, you can definitely spec into Overwhelm instead, which will give you added melee physical damage, so you'll do some more damage that way. But for us, I'm not too worried about damage. We have a two-hander on. We're doing great damage. Right now, we're just going to make sure that we don't die and that we can face tank our way through everything. And then for items, we did pick up a new chest piece. It got some health on it. We still have the same gloves. We got boots. We're still missing a ring. We're still missing a belt, and we picked up a jade ring, but it doesn't have any affixes. It comes with dodge rating, which helps us early game. And then for the helm, we picked up some fight and some dodge. We did switch our weapon from a two-handed axe to a two-handed sword. And the reason that we went with the sword instead is, one, it came with some incredible things. It has a huge amount of critical strike chance on it, a lot of physical damage, health on melee hit. It's basically a perfect starter weapon. But the base attack rate is also much faster. Instead of being a 0.95, it's a 1.08, which is going to really dramatically see the increase in attack speed now. And it had 3 more added melee physical damage as a base implicit. So definitely a great weapon. So keep your eye on looking around for those two-handed swords when you're first starting out. Alright, we are now level 12. We're back in the council chambers for the second time, and we're just about to head east. But before we do, we're going to do an update. You can see we're up to 25% armor, we have 16% dodge, we're starting to get some more resistances, we picked up some physical, and we have almost 270 health. For our skills, we have a couple more points to put in. For Rive, we have 2 more points. I'm going to go ahead and put 1 into Trampling a Hootzel. That's probably pronounced wrong, oh well. And 1 point into Insidious for that added base void damage. And we're getting much closer. Once you get into Gaze of the Abyss and you get that double void damage, it just starts getting ridiculous how much damage you do in the early game. And then for Lunge, we have 3 points. We're going to go ahead and cap out Tactician for that maximum cooldown recovery. And then put 1 point into Initiative. So every time we lunge, we now get a 4-second buff. That's going to give us 40% more damage and 40% more critical strike chance. Then for passives, we got 4 more points for passives. I'm going to go ahead and count the Armor Clad with 2 more points. This way we'll take 10% less damage from nearby enemies. And then the final 2 points we're going to go ahead and put into Overwhelm. The next 3 points will all go into Overwhelm, and then we're going to start putting points into Time and Faith. And Time and Faith is huge because every time that you use Rive, whether you hit an enemy or not, once you have 5 points in here, you're going to gain 25 health and 10 mana. Getting 25 health every time that you swing a weapon like this, which will be faster once we're dual welding, is crazy amounts of HP regen. Plus you'll get your mana back so you can use mana heavy skills as well and then get your mana back relatively fast. But we'll get into that when we get to it. For items, right now we have several things going on. First, we finished the quest to unlock 4 idol slots, and of course 2 idols always drop. You get a 1x2 and a 1x2, 1 vertical, 1 horizontal. We're going to go ahead and choose the better of the 2. We're going to throw in this horizontal one that's going to give us some of our damage leached as health on hit, and we get some necrotic resistance. Now, in the meantime, while you're going through drops, you want to be looking for a really good one-handed sword and one-handed axe, because as soon as we unlock dual welding, that's what we'll be going for. And in this case, I already found a really good sword, so we'll still be looking for an axe, but this one has added void damage to it, which is huge. And you can imagine having 2 different weapons with added void damage, and then once we get that node that doubles the damage of void damage, how this is going to just get a little crazy. You also want to collect melee void damage, the flat affixes, so like this one, and then feel free to open up your crafting sheet. You push F, open that up, and break these down. You'll pick up these shattering runes. I've already got 5 of them, but you'll find these as you go, and you can shatter it, and you're going to get some of those melee void damage shards, which then, if you wanted to, you can craft on the weapon of your choice. I now have melee void damage, and I can craft it on there. I'm not going to put it on this one just in case I find something better by the time that I that point where we can dual weld, but for now that's what we have. And then I'm just going to hover over my gear. Most of it's the same that we found kind of early on, but I'll let you see what my affixes are right now. We're still looking for a ring that has something on it, but the dodge works for now. And then for our chest, we only have 1 affix, so we're hoping to get a better chest with more affixes here pretty quick and a higher amount of base armor. Alright, that's it for now. Let's get into some more gameplay. Alright, after some more gameplay, we are now level 19. We have almost 300 health. We're still working on our resistances, but they're slowly coming up. And we now sit at 25% armor and 15% dodge. For skills, I ended up putting 2 more points into Rive, 1 more point into Insidious, and then 1 more point into Gaze into the Abyss. That doubled void damage really helped on that last boss. And then into Lunge, I put all 4 points that we have into Avenger's Charge for that increased crit chance from Initiative. We do have another specialization slot open. If you'd like, you can spec into one of these skills. However, we're 1 passive point away from being able to get into Smite, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it for now and just do Smite as soon as that's unlocked. For passive points, I have 7 more passive points. I put 3 more into Overwhelm to fill it out, and then 4 points into Time and Faith so that we now get health and mana every time that we use Rive. We're 1 point away, and then we'll have Smite, and once we unlock Smite, we'll go ahead and spec into that. The major thing about Smite is we're going to be using it to give ourselves 50% more attack speed, which just helps things get even more ridiculous. You can see that we're going to get 50% attack speed from Smite, work our way up, and then get 60% more attack speed for wearing an axe and a sword, and wearing 2 one-handed weapons is going to give us more base attack speed than the 2-handed that we have on. So it's going to get pretty crazy here in probably the next update or 2. And then for items, So the only thing we changed, found a nice relic. It's got some increased damage and physical resist on it, as well as increased armor and void resist as an implicit. And then for our sword, we're just continuing to look for more one-handers to replace the sword, because we're only 2 points away from getting into that dual wielding. So make sure you're looking for that melee void added damage so that you can get and put that onto your sword and to your axe and have those ready to go for the moment that you unlock that dual wielding slot. Alright, we are in the temple, just about to take on the boss, and we are now level 25. I did end up dying once. That's what happens when you don't pay attention to the void. It will come for you. Still building up resistances. We still got 25% armor, still got the 14% dodge. And for passives, we're going to go ahead and have 8 more points. We're going to finish off the time and faith. We're going to put 1 point into gladiator so that we can now dual weld. You will take 12% more damage, but we're going to build up our defenses to be able to handle that. Then we have 6 more points. We're going to go ahead and put 3 more into Juggernaut for that resistance and for that strength. We're going to put 1 point in counterattack, so there's a chance when you get hit that you will retaliate. A small chance, but still a chance. That leaves 2 points, and both those points are going to go into Blade Master. We'll be capping out Blade Master, and then after that we'll be starting to put our points into the actual Void Knight, as we'll have that mastery unlocked here soon. For skills, we got 2 more points for Rive. Gonna put 1 point into Outburst for some bigger area with the third strike, and then 1 point into Overwhelm, so the third strike will now hit 50% more damage. Then we have Lunge with 2 more points. We're gonna finish capping out Avenger's Charge, and then put 1 point in Forge On so that we'll get some bonus armor and stun avoidance after lunging. And then we now have Smite unlocked. I'm going to go ahead and specialize it. And we're going to start building up here to the left. We're going to put 1 point in Holy Wave, and then 3 points in Righteous Fury. This is going to give us some added melee fire damage to our skills for 4 seconds after using it. So we'll now have 9 added fire damage. Not a huge boost of damage, it is some, but it's going to help us unlock Righteous Flurry, which once we get 5 points in there will give us 50% more attack speed, which is a huge buff. And then for items, we can now dual wield. So we're going to go ahead and break down our two-handed weapon that has melee void damage on it. Going to shatter that bad boy, and we did get 1 more void shard. We're going to craft on, I have an axe and a sword here. I have a falchion one-handed sword, not quite as fast as a katana, so it's not going to have the 1.25. So if you find, say, an Eastern blade, you're going to go ahead and have that 1.25. But we got one with void damage here, got a falchion. We're going to throw that in, and we're going to see if we can put some more melee void damage on it, and we can. And we're going to go ahead and put that. We're going to throw a guardian on there. And just like that, we tapped it out. We have 20 added melee damage, which is huge. Now you can only offhand swords. The axe will have to go on the main hand, but we're going to craft on the axe as well and add melee void damage to it. And then we're going to add in the melee attack speed. We're going to cap that out if we can. And look at that, we did. And there's nothing else I really want on that, but we now have 18% faster attack speed and 10 added melee void. As we find more void damage, we'll continue to add to that, but right now we have 10 added melee damage there and 20 added melee void damage on this one, which together is 30 melee void damage, which is more than the 25 melee physical damage at this point. So we have a total of 55 added damage, 30 of it void, 22 of it melee physical, but that 30 void is a huge amount, and that's more than our two-handed weapon that we just had when we took it off. So not only are we going to be attacking faster, because if you look at our attack speed, our melee attack speed just jumped up to 73%, which it wasn't that high before, but now that we're putting points into getting attack speed bonus for both an axe and for a sword, we're going to see that rise up every time we put a passive point in there. We're going to be attacking much, much faster. In fact, if you were watching the gameplay before, look how fast we're already attacking just here at level 25. And this is without even having Smite give us a 50% bonus yet. And down the road we'll get Volatile Reversal. But we'll talk about that when we get to it. So for now, let's continue on. That was a really fast kill of Orbitross. We took him down in about 20 seconds, which is probably the fastest I've ever killed him, but that 15% kill threshold is what really does it for you. But anyways, we are in the end of time, and we now get to make our master choice. This is the only update I have in this one, as we haven't gained a level or any skill levels. Here, we're going to choose the Void Knot. Now remember, this is a permanent choice. You cannot undo this. So if you're using this guy to take any one of the trees, make sure you click the right one, because you don't get to come back and switch this later. You'll have to make a whole new character. But we're going to go ahead and go Void Knight, and we're automatically going to go ahead and get 75% more melee void damage, which is going to be really nice. And then there'll be a chance for our attacks that are not movement skills to now be echoed half a second later, which means every time we use Rive, which is not a movement skill, there's a chance that it's going to echo later. Now that percentage chance starts at 10%, but we can build it up all the way to 40% inside of a passive tree. Basically what that means is we're going to have a 10% chance to double our damage. Alright, let's go ahead and choose our mastery and continue on with the story. Alright, we are now level 34, which means we have opened up our 4th specialization slot, and so we're going to go ahead and do an update. As you can see, we're still getting our resistances. We've gathered a little bit more physical, but that's about it. We're still lacking in all those. We still have quite a bit of dodge and armor, not a whole lot, but enough to get us by for right now. For passives, we have 12 unspent points, so the first points I'm going to do is 3 points into the Blade Master for that attack speed. And then we're going to start in the Void Knight. And in the Void Knight, there's a lot of juicy passives in the bottom. A lot of them you're going to want, you can get the added void damage. You can get more resistance and health. You can get leech. But we're going to start with the 5 points in Temporal Corruption, just to get that plus 10 void damage to really bring our damage to another level. And then we're going to go ahead and put 4 points in Abyssal Endurance. Now that we've put in these points in, we've unlocked Volatile Reversal, which is going to be the next skill that we're specializing into. We're going to start with Rive. We have 3 points. We're going to put 1 point into the Abyss Gazes Back for 6 more flat void damage on the 3rd strike. We're going to put 1 point into Outburst to capitalize on the 3rd strike area, and 1 point in Brutality, so the 3rd strike does 20% more damage. Then for Lunge, we're going to put all 3 points in Forge On, so we get 100% bonus armor and stun avoidance whenever we lunge. For Smite, we're going to fill up 5 points in Righteous Flurry so that we get 50% more attack speed, and then 2 more points in Righteous Fury so that we get 6 more added melee fire damage. And then for our new skill, we're going to go ahead and throw in Volatile Reversal. The only place I'm going to use this is against single targets when I've been in the same spot for more than 4 seconds, so I'm not bouncing around. But with it, I'm going to go ahead and put 2 points in Time Sap and 3 points into Warped Time. So when we do use this, we'll get a bonus of 30% attack speed for 2 seconds. And that can stack, but the chances of you being able to use it at this point with an 18-second cooldown faster than 2 seconds is unlikely. But you now get a 50% boost of attack speed from Smite, a 30% for Volatile Reversal. Your attack speed is looking much, much better. For items, haven't really done anything different. If you have another idol, you can feel free to put it in the slots as we're unlocking them. Right now I have one that does more damage for Smite or Vengeance with void damage over time. We're not using any of that. I picked up another one to convert shield throw to void along with fire damage over time. We're also not using either of those, although we might throw shield throw into the 5th slot just to get the armor for the ricochets. But right now we're just going to go ahead and put this lightning resist on because that's what we have. Haven't really changed any gear. We're still using the one-handed weapons and haven't really crafted on anything else, although starting to save some stuff. We're getting some shards, we're getting some guardians, and the next update we'll probably stop and craft some stuff to capitalize upon our resistances as it starts to get more important. Alright, let's go ahead and get back into it. Alright, we are now level 40. We almost capped our physical resistance. We have quite a bit of void, and we have just over 530 health. And our attack speed is getting even higher. We're at almost 100% attack speed. Of course, that gets boosted by both Volatile Reversal and Smite whenever we use those. And we have gotten to Heoborea now. For skills, we have one more skill point in Rive, which we're going to throw into the Abyss Gazes Back for that added flat void damage on the 3rd strike. For lunge, we're going to put 1 point in Unstoppable so that while we lunge, we are invincible. For Smite, we have 2 points. Both of those points are going to go into Blinding Flash as we work our way into the Lightning Bolt side so that we can hit the same target multiple times. And then we have 7 points for Volatile Reversal, with 2 points in Traveler's Fatigue, 2 points in Ancient Reversal, so that when you reversal, you'll now go back in time by 4 seconds instead of 2 seconds, which means you keep the buffs for a total of 4 seconds now instead of 2 seconds. And then to make it to where you can get multiple stacks of the buffs, we're going to reduce the cooldown. So right now it's at 12 seconds. We're going to go ahead and put 1 point in Time Lost Wisdom, 1 point in Time Lost Vitality, and 1 more point in Time Sap, and our cooldown is now down to 2.4 seconds. So right now, without getting any kills, you can cast it 2 times in less than 4 seconds, and that'll give you the buff, which does stack, so you can have 60% attack speed for about 80 to 90% uptime of that. And even more if you get kills, because every kill you get reduces the cooldown by 9%. So if you kill a bunch of trash mobs, it'll just keep resetting that cooldown for you, and that's what's going to allow you to get more stacks. I've seen this go from 30 to 60 to 90. I've seen it get all the way up to giving 180, 210% increased attack speed, depending on how many mobs you round up and kill, and if you cast it fast enough for all that to happen. For passives, we have 11 more passive points. We're going to put them all into the Void Knight. We're going to put 1 point in Abyssal Endurance. Then we're going to put 8 points in Void Blades. Now this 8 points is going to give you 24 more flat melee void damage, which is as much as a T5 affix on a one-handed weapon, so that's pretty big. And then the last 2 points we're going to throw into World Eater so that we start leeching some of that good damage that we're doing to increase our survivability. As soon as you have 8 points in this, you're going to be at the point where you can face tank from this point until your mid 70s, or until you get into like level 80, 90, 100 content, and then you might not want to face tank the bosses anymore unless you really improve upon gear and how much HP you have, and get some more armor / dodge / endurance. And then for items, we are wearing 2 new weapons. We've had some upgraded ones drop. We had a bronze axe drop, and we added on melee void damage. It dropped with the melee critical strike chance. And then we had a hooked blade, which is a higher base of the one-handed sword, and we added melee void damage to that. It came with stun and fire damage. All together now we have 26 plus 3, we have 57 flat melee physical damage, and then we have the 8 plus 26, so 34 flat melee void, but we also have in our passives another 10 melee void plus the 24 for another 34, so we have almost double the melee void damage from passives as we do on our weapons. And then don't forget, inside of the skills we have another 4 void, and then on the final third strike we have another 12. So a lot of melee void damage adding up, and all of that void damage of course gets doubled. Alright, let's go ahead and get back into it for a bit. Alright, and continuing on, you can see we are now level 49. We are just about to take on Lilith and then Lagon. I will play those after this update, those boss fights in normal play mode, so you can see how I do the fight. We have almost capped elemental. Lightning is really important at this point. You're going to really want to make sure that you have at least 60% plus lightning resistance when you go into these fights. It makes it a lot easier. It's doable without it, but just make sure that your elemental resistances are quite high. You can see that we haven't gained much more armor, our dodge has gone down, but we've done a lot better on the resistances. Poison and necrotic are 2 of our lowest, but we're not really into those types of damage right now, so nothing to worry about. We have almost 600 health, and then for our items, we haven't really found much in terms of idols. The idols that we're looking for is ones that give Rive critical strike multiplier, but we haven't found a single one. Probably find some of those in the Monolith of Fate once we beat these bosses and start into that. So that's what we're wearing. For weapons, basically all the same stuff. I'm just going to hover over them all real quick so you can see. Basically we're just going for a bunch of resistances. We did change into Shadow, chest piece, and helm. These come with a lot more increased void damage. We have 120% more void damage, just the implicits on those, not even the affixes. As you can see, we have like hammer throw damage and stuff we don't really need, but we'll work on regearing that once we get into the Monolith of Fate. For passives, we have 9 more points. We're going to go ahead and throw 6 of them into World Eater so we leech a bunch more life. And then we're going to throw 3 into Woe. And what Woe's going to do is it increases our melee damage, so we'll do a little bit more damage, but we get a bonus to void damage whenever we get a melee kill, as well as increased armor on melee kill. But we're going to put 4 points into that just so that we can unlock Singular Purpose, and Singular Purpose with just 4 points will give us 100% more void damage, so that's another big boost of damage, so we'll work into that. And if you're struggling on resistances for physical and void, you can always spec some more points into Abyssal Endurance, but right now don't really need it, especially not at this point in the fight. Maybe once we're in the mono, we'll come back and put some points into that. For skills, we have 2 more points for Rive. We're going to put 1 point in the Abyss Gaze's back and 1 point in Brutality for 20% more hit damage on that third strike. And then for Lunge, we have 1 point. Going to go ahead and put that 1 point into the Fray. 2 points for Smite. We're going to unlock the Order of Lagan, the lightning part, and then Unbalanced Scale for 1 point so that lightning bolts can target 3 nearby targets, or if there's only 1 target, all 3 bolts will hit the same target. Now this will not change Smite from Void. It's still going to be a Void type skill. However, it can hit multiple targets afterwards with lightning bolts. Then we have 3 points in Volatile Reversal. We're going to go ahead and put 1 point in Terminal Void Rift and 2 points in Dark Expanse. And then we're going to be working our way into Harbinger of Dust so that when we teleport with Volatile Reversal and we hit things with our Void Rifts, they're going to take 30% more damage. And then we do have our 5th specialization slot. It is now unlocked. However, the skill that we want is Anomaly, and we are 1 passive point away from unlocking that. So I'm just going to leave it for right now. But the skill that we want is this one right here, Anomaly. We need 1 more passive point, so we have to gain 1 more level. We'll unlock that. And because I won't spec into it until my next update, but when we do go into it, what you're wanting with it is to go into the time bubble. So when you get it, if you do spec into it before my next update, make sure you go into Void Touch and work your way into Time Bubble. Basically, you want the more leech, you want the more attack speed, you want the crit chance, have the Time Bubble follow you. You're basically just going to work into this whole side of the tree here. Alright, let's go ahead and do these boss fights. Alright, travelers, we are now level 55. We've beat Lilith, we've beat Lagon, we've beaten the Fall of the Outcast timeline and Abomination, and we are now working on the Black Sun timeline, in which Void is the most important resistance that you're going to want, especially against the boss. We're almost capped down on that. We're almost capped on Elemental. We actually have pretty good resistance all around except for Poison. We gained a little bit more armor. Again, we're slowly losing dodge, but it's not something we're really building into. And then for items, we did change items up a little bit. Haven't found any of the idols that we wanted yet, but we did pick up a Raider Axe. So we got a pretty good base melee critical strike chance on that. It almost doubled our base critical strike chance because we have 5% base. So now we have 9%. It came with some added melee void damage, which we capped out to a total of tier 5. We didn't get the best roll on it, but it's alright. And then we have chance to ignite and frailty on the hit, and some physical damage. So it's a pretty good axe at the moment. And then we had the Woven Flesh, obviously a 100% drop from the Abomination. We threw that on so we can get one more leech, faster leech rate, and 100% critical strike avoidance. So that's going to boost our survivability up quite a bit as we continue on through these timelines and until we find a better crafted item. And then for skills, we haven't leveled any up yet. We kind of did some respecking and moving around of just 1 point on a couple of them to just test a couple of things. One thing I did test was getting the teleport node inside Smite. They now have global cooldowns for movement, and because of that, if you use Smite, then you can't use Lunge, and if you use Lunge, you can't use Smite, so I ended up unspecking from that and making that change. We also had a chest piece that had +1 levels to Lunge, and we ended up getting rid of that, so we lost 1 level there. And then I am going to do Anomaly for you here. So for passives, we have 7 more points, which we're going to put all into the Void Knight. We're going to put 1 more point into Woe. That's going to unlock Singular Purpose, in which we'll throw 4 points in there for that 100% more void damage. And then we're going to go ahead and throw 2 more points into Abyssal Endurance, just so that we can cap out that void resistance and get a little bit more physical, and it will give us some more life. Now this is going to unlock Anomaly, so for skills we're going to go ahead and start speccing into that. And we have 7 points. We're going to go ahead and throw 1 point in Void Touch, 1 point in Time Bubble. Then we're going to make the duration longer, put 4 points into Temporal Mastery, and 1 point in Time Lord makes it to where it's going to follow us around. So now we're going to have the Time Bubble following us, and it's going to give us all those benefits that it normally would, which will include Leech and attack speed and other things as we continue to spec into them, but right now it just slows enemies and makes them take more void damage. Alright, let's go ahead and continue through the Black Sun. The next update will be at level 65. I have a feeling we'll be like into the Emperor timeline, maybe still at Lagon, but probably in the Emperor timeline by the time we get to that level, but we'll see. Alright, let's keep going. Alright, I am now level 65, and we have worked our way all the way through the Black Sun timeline, and we are working towards the Lagon boss fight. We have our resistances. You can see we definitely went all out on Void for that Rhea fight. We are still trying to cap all of them. It's still a work in progress, but we're definitely getting much closer. We also stacked a little bit more HP. We got about 850 now on our items. We did end up finding a couple of idols we finally wanted. So the one that I was looking for was the Rive Critical Strike Multiplier, and this one also came with the perfect suffix, increased melee void damage. So those are the perfect idols that you would want. This one rolled pretty low, almost on the bare minimum, but these are the idols you want. If you can get 4 of those, your damage will be absolutely crazy. Right now we have 1, and then I also found another melee void damage one, as well as a 2x2 that increases your melee damage for 4 seconds whenever a skill echoes, which you echo pretty often, so that one will also boost your damage by a little bit. But again, the Ornate Sorrow idols with the Rive Critical Strike Multiplier and the increased melee void damage are the best ones you can get. We also found a katana, which is almost the best weapon you can get. The Decicide sword is going to be the one that we end up with once we get high enough level and work towards. But with this, we ended up getting increased void damage, flat void damage, health on hit, and chance to slow. We redid our relic. We now have a Dread Banner, which comes with an implicit of a chance to apply a future strike on melee hit, and it comes with increased void damage. And then the last thing, we also have a belt which has dodge rating, physical damage, increased health, and physical resistance. That's all that we've really changed in the gear department. And then for skills, we have 3 more points for Rive. 2 of them I'm going to put in Insidious for 4 more void damage with all hits, and the last point in the Abyss Gaze's back for 6 more void flat damage on the 3rd strike. For Lunge, got 3 points, going to put all 3 of them into the fray. And then for Smite, we have 3 points. We're going to go ahead and throw all those into Wandering Bolts. For Volatile Reversal, we're going to put 1 point in Dark Expanse and then 2 points in Harbinger of Dust. This will make enemies take 20% more damage when you Volatile Reversal and hit them with the Void Rift that is created. And then we have some points in Anomaly, so I put some of these points in there to have an easier time with Rhea. So I ended up putting 1 point in Temporal Mastery to finish it off, 1 point in Lingering Memory, 1 point in Time Lord, 1 point in Manipulation, 3 points in Time Eater, and 3 points in Void Maul. I'm going to go ahead and stick another point in the Time Eater. And then for passives, we got 10 points. I'm going to stick 5 points in Echoing Strikes. You'll now have a 20% total chance to have one of your skills echo instead of only a 10% chance. And then I'm going to stick 5 points into Dread Maul for all of that juicy void damage, and you get some move speed. As we continue on, you're going to want 1 point in Avatar of Regret. That'll give you an additional 10% echo chance, so you'll be up to 30. We'll continue to put more points into the void damage and move speed. And then if you still really need help on resistance, we're already capped on void, and physical is doing alright, so I'm not putting any more in Abyssal Endurance right now. But there's some other spots you can, mess around and put points as you need them in those spots. Alright, let's go ahead and continue. Alright, travelers, we've worked our way through the Lagan timeline and the fight. We went to the Reign of Chaos timeline. We were at about a 30 streak there. I just continued the streak on. We've died quite a few times, so we ended up switching up some gear, but we were able to get all of our EXP that way without even having to take on the boss. It's pretty good EXP once you get to about a 15 to 20 streak there, and in between 20 and 30, usually every 3 or 4 echoes if you die, you only go back like 3 or 4 echoes and you can just keep getting that good EXP. Getting to 75 doesn't take too long. You can get there in just a few hours. But going over our gear, this is going to be the last update for this build so far, for this leveling guide. We have almost all set capped resistances. We're just missing a little bit of poison and a little bit of lightning, but our physical, our necrotic and void, which is really going to help you on those last couple of timelines, are capped. Our armor is at 22%, but we did end up dropping volatile reversal in favor of shield throw, and we're only using shield throw to get more armor. You can actually get up to 80% damage reduction through armor, which will give you 80% damage reduction against physical and 40% damage reduction against everything else, which is really cool, and it's a lot of damage reduction, and our survivability really went through the roof as soon as we did that. And we were using it obviously a lot more than volatile reversal, because volatile reversal was only being used for boss fights, and shield throw we can actually just put on autocast because we left it with a cooldown, because the cooldown actually gives you even more armor. But we'll go over that when I go over the skills. As you can see, for our damages, we're sitting at about 350% void. We still only have 200% critical strike multiplier, and getting into the items, we have not found any more of the idols that I've been wanting, but you can definitely get this critical strike multiplier much higher. It won't show here, but if you were to get 4 good idols, you can get another 180% max, but probably around 120-130% crit multi for Rive, which is huge, and then you can get a lot more melee void damage, which again, this melee void damage is not shown here. So you actually have quite a bit of damage going into this build, but getting 4 of these idols again is what you want to really strive for, so keep looking for them. As for gear, we did do some crafting. That's how we got our resistances up. I'm just going to hover over all of these. This gear as it is right here is what's going to be in the build planner that I put in. It's obviously not min-max, it's not perfect, but it's what I have going here that's worked very well, and we've been just striving and flying through a lot of the echoes and timelines. We're doing 5 to 10k crits with the third strike arrive. So it's hitting really hard. We've got good leech, we've got good defense, and it's working out really well. And then for skills, so we have 1 point in Rive. I'm going to go ahead and slap this point into trampling a Hootle. I'm never going to pronounce that right. But things you can do with this if you want to spec it a little bit differently. If you're struggling and you want more leech, you can go into Reclamation for the last couple of points. That'll give you a lot of health leech. If you're struggling with mana, say that you didn't want to do shield throw, you spec'd into Paladin Tree and you wanted to run sigils, which are quite expensive instead, but they give you a lot of armor and they also give you a lot of offense. You can get a lot of flat void damage out of them. I recommend shield throw because it's not a nuisance to have to be casting every few seconds. You can just put it on auto cast. You can't do that with sigils, but if you're having mana issues, you can put 2 points into Rapus Mind so that you can gain 12 mana every time you use that third strike. If you don't have mana issues but you want like the first or second strike to do more damage, you can go into Challenge and into Iron Reach. This will pull enemies in for a mana cost, and it will make strike 2 do more damage and in a bigger area. However, don't put any points into Flurry. Remember, this attack speed boost here is pointless because it gets negated by the Gaze into the Abyss. For Lunge, you can really do anything. At this point, you can spend a point to get a second charge. This will allow you to have 2 charges of lunge, so you can actually do a double lunge if you haven't seen any enemies while it's been on cooldown. I'm not a huge fan of it. It does make it cost mana, it does less damage. We're not running any dex, so we're not going to do the armor per point of dex. So at this point, I just kind of put into the base crit chance for it. There's really not any good spots. It's just kind of like put it wherever you want. For Smite, this is kind of the same thing. We were pretty much done with this tree after we got the attack speed and the Righteous Fury, so you can really put into anything you want. I'm just going to go into the shock chance and shock effect. For shield throw, now I unspec'd volatile reversal and we put shield throw on the build. And the way shield throw works, is it's going to basically auto target near your mouse. It's going to target the nearest enemy around your mouse area, and it's going to throw a shield. You do not have to wear a shield. The shield can ricochet off 2 targets, so as long as there's more than 1 enemy, it can ricochet to other enemies. If there's 2 enemies, it can ricochet back and forth until it's reached its maximum number of ricochets, and then the shield heads back to you. While it does that, it's on a 2-second cooldown. So the reason we went with shield throw is we can put it on auto cast, and you will automatically cast it every 2 seconds. So once you put it on auto cast, you don't even have to think about it. And then we have 4 points in armoring Aegis. This grants you 160 flat armor for every ricochet. So that means right now if it were to ricochet twice, we'd get 320 flat armor, which is a pretty decent number. Then on top of that, with 4 points in Colossus, we now gain 100% more armor while on cooldown. Now remember, Lunge gives you 100% armor, and now this will give you 100% armor, and that's 100% uptime because it lasts while it's on cooldown, and of course as soon as it's off cooldown, you're throwing it again, so it's back on cooldown. So you have 200% increased armor, which means for 2 ricochets of 320 armor, you now have 200% increase, puts you at 960 armor, almost 1,000 free armor right here, but it gets better. Then you have 3 points in Ironmonger, so it takes armor off of your enemies. And then we have 2 points in Hemeron's Technique, and this gives you 2 more ricochets, so we just doubled what we had there. So now you can get 1,920 armor. And then with 2 points in Ricochet up here, that's another 2 ricochets for another 960 armor, putting you at just under 2,900 armor total between this skill and lunging. And that's it. That's all you have to do. And Lunge can be on auto cast too. So you're getting 3,000 free armor. Now we still have some more points to put in. We have 2 points in Paul of Steel to make it a little bit cheaper, but mana is not an issue with this build. You could even take these points out. You can put another point into Armored Aegis for another 40 flat. You can get health healed on Ricochet. You can give yourself haste. And in case you're struggling and you have say you're not running to run Smite and you run Ring of Shields instead, you can make it target allies so it'll bounce off your own shields so that you can pretty much always guarantee to have the max amount of ricochets going. Then for Anomaly, we got 2 more points for Anomaly. I'm going to go ahead and put 1 point in Void Maul and 1 point in the Crit Chance. Now the reason I'm not putting into Immediacy is it's actually nice to have it take enemies, and since we have it on autocast, it's basically doing the immediacy for you automatically because it's making them disappear and instantly come back. But it interrupts moves, so like it was making Lagon disappear and come back. It interrupts the Emperor during his beam, like it interrupts their attacks, so it's basically like a free stun is what it is, which is really helpful, and so that's the reason I don't have the 1 point in immediacy. Then for passives, we have 10 more points. We're going to put them all into the Void Knot. Now, like I was saying, if you would like to run Ring of Shields with your shield throw, you'd need 5 points in the Forge Guard. If you want to run Sigils instead of shield throw, you need 15 points in the Paladin. But here, we're going to stick with the build that we have, and we're going to put 10 points into this. 1 point is going to go into Void Corruption, so that we have critical strike multiplier by the number of points that we have in this tree. You can see this one in the character sheet. As you can see, we just jumped up to 247 from 200 because we have that 47 points. And as you put more points in here, you'll have, by end game, you'll have 80 to 90 points in here. That's a huge amount of extra damage. Then we're going to go ahead and put 1 point in Avatar of Regret, so you have another 10% chance to echo. This does reduce your attack speed by 10% and increase mana cost, but neither of those are really too effective not to do it. And the rest of the points will all go in Dread. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed the guide.